Hi everyone. You want to know how to use those 4 statements that I spoke to you about in the previous video to get to some of your limiting beliefs? Then stick around and watch this video. Hi everyone, my name is Jacques Snyman and I make videos that will help you create a more secure future for you and your family. Today I want to go back to those 4 statements from Greg Braden's book that I shared with you in the previous video. And just by the way, I made you a little tool, so if you want, see in the description, there's an email address there. You can drop me a mail and I'll gladly send it over to you. That tool helps you to structure all the questions and get to the 4 statements. Right, so the 4 statements, remember, that I gave you is statement number 1 says, I sometimes attract people into my life who are ... And remember, that comes from your answer to the first question that says, what were the negative characteristics, the characteristics that you didn't really like from those people that took care of you as a young child? That's the first statement. The second statement was, I want them to be ... And then you complete that by means of the needs that you identified in that first set of questionnaires. The third one said, so that I can have or can experience, and then you fill in the variables again from your answers, and I'll give you the real answers shortly in my own example. And then the last one, which I think is the most useful one, was the statement is, I prevent myself sometimes from getting this by ... right? And that starts to unearth your limiting belief. So let me go through an example quick. I completed this with you, and my answers to those questions gave me the following. I sometimes attract people into my life who are victims, very critical, have a negative self-image, and give love for performance or results. I'm getting real personal here, guys. It's really intimate stuff, this, but if I really stop and look at some of the people that I've attracted into my life and that I still do attract into my life, many of those characteristics are true for them, right? Crazy, yeah, because those are the characteristics that I did not like in my caretakers as a child, but that's the reality. So that's what the first statement gives you. It gives you the characteristics of some of the people that you have in the past or that you still currently are attracting into your life. That's the first statement. The second statement says, I want them to be ... In my case, I said, I want them to be caring, inspiring, protective. I want them to love me unconditionally, believe in me, and motivate me. Those were the words that came out of my answers to those questions that I gave you. And that boils down to my expectations of others. So that just simply, again, reflects a little bit on the beliefs and how I live my life. Those statements are the expectations I have of other people. Now remember, if you have certain expectations and you don't have those expectations met in a specific relationship, you feel disappointed, you feel let down and so forth, and that doesn't lead to a good relationship, right? So that was the second statement. The third statement says ... so that I can have. And I said things like unconditional love, so that I can be inspired, so that I can feel good about myself, so that I can feel good enough, worthy, and lovable, right? Those are a reflection of needs, guys, personal needs. That's what the third statement tells us. And that's all very interesting, the first, second, and third statement. But the fourth statement is really, really where the rubber hits the road. And this is the one that really starts giving us, or lifting the veil if you want, in terms of those limiting beliefs. The fourth statement says, I prevent myself sometimes from getting this by, and my answer is, withdrawing, keeping quiet, not being honest about my own needs, by just keeping going, and by just simply working harder on the next damn goal, right? And that now, slowly but surely, starts to unearth the limiting beliefs. I prevent myself sometimes from getting this, those needs that I explained, by withdrawing, by keeping quiet, by not being honest about my own needs, and so forth. And again, those are now starting to unearth the limiting beliefs that I have, right? So, as I said before, there's no absolutes. This is an iterative process, so you've got to go through this again and again, use it regularly, see if you want that little tool that I showed you before. When this exercise works particularly well is when you have challenges in life, right? When you experience certain challenges or problems, or when it's just going a little bit rough and you're experiencing some uphill, because during those times, when there's crisis, when there's challenge, when there's a specific problem to be solved, when there's issues in relationships, it's during those times of testing almost that when you ask those questions and when you then complete these 4 statements, the real deep-seated beliefs tend to come up. Okay, so that's what I want to leave you with today in terms of the 4 statements and how that links or relates to your limiting beliefs. In the next video, I will chat to you about 2 possible ways in terms of addressing those limiting beliefs. The one is called the logical patch. We need logic for the conscious mind to almost believe in your belief if you want. And we also need something else, right? It's called the miracle patch to help change those limiting beliefs. And as I said, it's an iterative process. Repetition is the way this process works. Whichever methodology or approach you are deciding to use, all of them need repetition. That's, after all, how our beliefs were fundamentally formed in the first place. Just a quick story about the astounding power of beliefs. I read a little story where an instance of stigmata, a person that lives with stigmata, was described. Now, don't worry about it. I also didn't know what in the world stigmata was. Stigmata is the presentation of a cross on the forehead and wounds in the hands and in the feet and in the sides based on a fundamental, passionate belief in the crucifixion 2,000 odd years ago, right? That's what stigmata is. And if you're a scientist and if you have a scientific approach to life like I do, then you may well discount that as an anomaly or something that is not explainable or whatever the case might be. Bottom line is, guys, it is pretty real. Okay, there are numerous instances of stigmata that have been written up. For me, that is very close also to the whole issue of the placebo effect, where research these days shows that the bulk, the biggest part of the functioning of any chemical that you put in your body that supposedly is going to heal a disease of some sort is actually a placebo. Yes, there's some chemical function of many of these medicines and so forth. That is true in fact, but that's apparently a smaller part of the healing process. So again, belief gives us spectacular power, if you want, over how we experience our bodies and how we deal with disease and things like that. So out of things like the expression of stigmata and questions about the placebo and so forth, biologists are these days now starting to question the fundamentals of biology, among others, genetics, DNA, and that being your destiny, if you want, and a whole new field of study, field of research has been defined a couple of years ago. It's called epigenetics. You must have heard of that. It just simply means, or literally means, above the gene or controlling the gene. So there's other currently inexplainable forces that actually controls the gene or get the gene to respond. So context or the environment has a huge impact on genetics, DNA, and how they respond and what they cause as well. So what that means for me, and I hope it does that for you as well, is that because we have now discovered, if you want, epigenetics, that puts me back into the equation as a very powerful change agent. If I'm willing to believe the fact that through my thoughts and through changing my thoughts and the way that I think and feel, I can actually change my life. So for me, that was yet another epiphany, if you want. If you like this, if you find this useful, please like, subscribe, make a comment. If you need that tool, just send me a mail. I'll gladly send it off to you. And in the next video, I'll talk to you about that logic patch, something else called the miracle patch, and then I'll work through another couple of methods by which we can actually change these limiting beliefs. I'm investigating all sorts of interesting things to share with you, including things like muscle testing as part of the process to see whether or not you've got certain limiting beliefs or not. So until the next one, rooting for your success and for your creation of a more secure future.